And now we are become death, the destroyer of podcasts. Welcome to the Three Body Narrative. We are your hosts, Naeem, Pradyum, and Aaron, and we are here to discuss the Oscar winning Christopher Nolan epic, Oppenheimer. So, what is Oppenheimer all about? Well, it's based on a book called The American Prometheus, The Triumph and Tragedy of J. Robert Oppenheimer. And what it does is it talks through how the physicist Oppenheimer was recruited during World War II to build and become eventually the father of the atomic bomb. And we're going to be talking about, the entire movie. And to do that, we've let's start off before we get to talking about it in greater discussion. Let's start with our rankings of the movie. So, who wants to go first?
Um, Aaron, if you want to take uh, the first shot at
Cool.
what your overall.
I think I'll rate it based on the way the movie was intended to be watched, and that was in the theater. I think
Okay.
that was the best version of the movie, and I think that's how the director wanted us to kind of watch it. And I think if I would give it a rating, I'd say it was like an 8.5. Um, I think a very impactful movie. I think the way he captured various elements in the movie, the way time passed through the movie, and the different experiences of Oppenheimer and the other characters throughout that entire journey was very well done. I think in terms of the music and stuff, I think um, Nolan has always done an amazing job in all of the movies that he has kind of come up with. So that was no surprise. Yeah, overall a very captivating kind of experience and an enjoyable one for sure.
Did you guys know about? I mean, did you know anything about the history or about Oppenheimer before going into this? Did you have any prior knowledge apart from, of course, I mean, the atomic bomb, I suppose, but any sort of prior knowledge as to, Alamo and the Trinity test and all of that stuff? Or did you go in with like a blank look or a blank?
Uh, to be honest, I mean, over the years, you are obviously somewhere you've overheard or you've kind of read bits and pieces of this thing, but I never really kind of uh, read up on it or anything like that way prior. But when the movie when the movie was about to release initially, then you kind of just try and see what Oppenheimer kind of did, what he went through, and that kind of stuff, and then so that you could kind of relate to the movie more. But yeah, it was only because you knew the movie was coming out that I did a little bit of reading. But n- before beforehand, I really didn't have too much knowledge about the entire thing.
Name, did you go watch
Yeah,
Barbie first or Oppenheimer?
it was Oppenheimer. We
Mm.
went with Oppenheimer first, in the Barbenheimer War, basically. So yeah, I think similar to what Aaron said in terms of whether I had heard about Oppenheimer before. I think here and there you kind of hear that name. Maybe at some point in history you would have gone through it, kind of a thing. I think
Yeah.
the history we were taught, it focused more on the aftermath of
Yeah.
what
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
the bombs did, and all of that, as opposed to the creation of it itself. But
Yeah,
Trinity itself,
I
of
was
course,
very disappointed that they didn't have anything about his love life and affair in our
interesting, right?
history
Yeah,
books.
yeah, it's supposed to be his story. Like, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
but like, nonetheless,
Oh, nice one,
my,
nice one. If you meant it that way.
yeah.
Yeah.
Coming back to my overall thoughts of the movie, like, and interestingly enough, Aaron mentioned that, like, it was supposed to be consumed, or the director want it to be consumed in a certain way in terms of being watched in the IMAX and stuff. And interestingly enough, of course, it was two very different experience. One, watching it at the cinemas, and I rated it a movie quite highly in terms of how it captured me then, and how the pacing of the movie worked there, and I didn't feel the length of the movie in itself. And I would
Which
give it about a nine.
which you measure by the number of times you need to go to the washroom.
Restroom, yeah, absolutely. And I, as I was doing the rewatch recently, at home basically, and there was a lot of distraction around. I felt the length of the movie. I actually felt like how long the movie was, and I think at multiple points I had to kind of pause,
Hmm.
do some other things, and come back into it. And I think that kind of takes away from the experience of it all. And perhaps that's where it kind of slightly drops to me, for me, to an 8.5,
Okay.
or maybe an 8, but like not less than that. It's still a very, very good movie. It's just that uh, sitting at home with a lot of distractions, it became a little too difficult to kind of continue with the flow of the movie, or consume it in the
Hmm.
way it was supposed to be consumed, kind of a thing. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, very strong acting, very good casting. Nolan doing Nolan's thing in terms of the way the picturization is done, the way the
Yeah.
film is basically sort of pulled together. It's always that multiple things happening at the same at the same time, kind of a thing, which always kind of grips my attention, because I always want to know, like, where all of this kind of comes into, like, connect. And yeah, I think one of my favorite biopics, for sure.
Yeah, I think I would rate it an 8.5. I do have small gripes with the movie, especially when I watch it again at home. You're right. I watched it last day, last show, first day was when I watched Oppenheimer, and it was, I think, nearing midnight. And normally I would have fallen asleep with a biopic, right? They don't tend to be fast paced, they don't tend to be tense, they don't tend to be, gripping. But this certainly was, and despite its runtime, and yeah, I was on the edge of my seat. It's weird, right? You know what the end result is, you know that it happens, but at the same time, you're like, especially when the Trinity test happens, you're like, when they're about to push the button, what if it fails? Like, what if this doesn't work? So that's like a subconscious thing that played out, which is fun. But I think overall I really liked it. Like you said, the casting. I love the difference. The fusion and fission, which is the black and white versus the color being the subjective bit, and the black and white being what actually happened, the objective side, which was quite nice. It's non-linear, but it's not exactly non-linear in a way. Like you do have the past and the present, which is quite linear that way, but it's done quite well. Editing was done quite well. Soundtrack was insane. It was how it was meant to be. I absolutely loved the way they showcased the bomb explosion, where you would see it before you heard it, and it was crazily done. Of course, like you guys mentioned, had to be consumed or had to be watched in the theaters to get that experience. Unless you have this sort of home theater system in your house, then maybe, and this
Then maybe
massive
invite
screen.
us over so that we can also.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So all that being said, I really liked it. I think an 8.5. What did you guys think? I mean, obviously it won the Oscars, right? It won the best picture. It won him the best director. It won all of that. Do you think where does this rank in your Christopher Nolan's top three, top five list? Because for me, I think it misses out on top three, definitely makes top five.
Okay. So the top three, definitely not for me, because I have a bias towards the Batman movies from Christopher Nolan, so they
Yeah.
kind of slot in there in the top three as well. Um, but top five, yeah, perhaps I think, especially the way the characters being portrayed by Cillian Murphy kind of adds to the overall experience. Um, so yeah, I think definitely a top five, Nolan for me. I would probably have Interstellar at, like, it's a mix. So I love Dark Knight so much.
Yeah.
and perhaps I would want to place it in the first position,
Yeah,
but just the way Interstellar was made, the concept,
yeah,
the way everything just comes together, all of that, just it's a close finish. So it's one of those two movies in the top two spots, and
yeah,
then probably I would have Inception in the third
yeah.
spot.
Okay.
That closes out this thing. Yeah.
Aaron?
Yeah, I think top three is kind of difficult to squeeze this one in, but top five for sure. I'll just give credit to the fact I think both of you all touched on this was the fact that it was a biopic and he was still able to kind of keep you captivated throughout the duration of the entire movie. I think that is kind of like the surprise factor and which adds to the value of the movie. And I think that's why for sure it is a top five movie. Top three, like Naeem mentioned, those the other movies, I think top three becomes a little bit difficult. But I mean, you can't take anything away from this movie as well. I think it did. He definitely did justice to the entire story and the movie as a whole. I think he really did a good job on that. So
A
yeah.
question to you, Brad.
Yeah, yeah.
Dunkirk or just which one would you rate higher?
This Oppenheimer. I think I loved Dunkirk. I watched it in IMAX. I loved it, but in terms of a story, this definitely had Dunkirk. I didn't know much about as to because there were a lot of casualties. Anyone could have died, right? The soldiers. So that kind of the in the tension, Dunkirk wins. But in terms of story and the casting and everything, I think
Yeah,
overall
also
Oppenheimer.
very different experiences, obviously. Dunkirk, the silence is so
Oh, is
damn deafening. It's
scary.
like, yeah, it's insane. But yeah, I think even I would agree to it. Like for me, this is definitely better than Dunkirk was simply in terms of I think what helps is like focusing on that one specific character more than anything else. Obviously, there
Yeah,
are supporting characters. Whereas in Dunkirk, it was like, like you kept moving
yeah.
around from one to the other. So
I think also okay. So for me, I think the top three was Dark Knight definitely first. I think what he's done with that genre. Then I guess it would have to be Inception, then Interstellar, maybe slightly. Uh, I think Inception also for me the soundtrack. I know Interstellar soundtrack is insane, but for me Inception is a little more catchier, so I would put that there. And then maybe yeah, fourth or fifth you can give it to either. I mean, I would put Oppenheimer ahead, maybe a Batman Begins or Dunkirk, right? One of those. All right, okay. Let's start off with a really big question, a very important question. If you guys were recruited for the Manhattan Project, would you accept it or would you decline? I'll leave it up to you guys.
I think you kind of have to take into consideration the time that the whole race for the atom bomb was kind of happening or taking place. One was again, if you are like in Oppenheimer's shoe, I think what was most intriguing to him was the research rather than the result of creating that bomb. So for us, it would be with that knowledge and in hindsight that the catastrophe that kind of happened upon creation, I probably say no.
Hmm.
But then again, I'm also kind of conflicting with the fact that if you didn't have that and you were then kind of beaten to the punch, then what would happen? So I think uh, I'd rather have the atom bomb just as a preservation of the country that you come from, and so I'd rather have done the research so at least the knowledge and then the security blanket of being able to defend yourself. And I guess at some point you'd probably have to accept the fact that you may be the aggressor on some occasion.
Hmm. Fair. Yeah, I think you're right. Like if it's kind of damn if you don't, damn if you do, because you
Yeah.
do it and you cause millions of lives, cause the death of millions of lives. But if you don't, someone beats you to the punch, and then you're like blamed, like you could have stopped this. You could have,
Yeah.
gone ahead and made this. We had all the resources. Naeem, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, it's a difficult thing to say, catch-22 situation. And also there's a bias in terms of already knowing what it led to eventually. So very difficult from those terms. I think looking at it right now, if like from what we know how history kind of panned out, I would say obviously I wouldn't want to be a part of this whole thing. And perhaps just being the person that I am, I would probably kind of want to stay away from it as opposed to be a part of it. Like even knowing that it could kind of remotely lead to destruction of human life. Not just human life, life in general, basically.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know if I would be on board with that. Again, like easier to say it from the standpoint that I am right now in, but like if push comes to shove, we don't know who we are, so it's difficult to say.
Yeah.
This is
I
one
think I
scene. Yeah, go ahead.
no, I was saying I think hindsight kind of blurs our decision, but I think also if you look at it just from Oppenheimer's view, where he kind of tried to say that we have like nations coming together to kind of say, okay, this is something that none of us will do. I
Yeah.
think you also had to take into consideration where Oppenheimer didn't have the power to kind of pull these nations together, and he had to rely on like the president of the United States and whoever in Germany and Russia and stuff. And so it's all well and good that you want to do something, but if the others don't play ball, you're kind of dead in the water then.
Because there is that part in the movie, right, where he is hesitant and he wants the uh
I think he wants the scientists
he
in both countries to kind of see. There's that part where it's discussed that they might set the atmosphere on fire, right? And they
Yeah,
kind of
that's
want
that's
to,
there. That's what Einstein tells him, correct?
yeah.
Yeah, that they would could ignite the atmosphere. But the other thing is, I think just before they meet, they go for that meeting. That after the Trinity test, there's a thing that why don't you tell the president we have it, just don't use it or something. I think there is that little bit of hesitancy there, but there's that one scene which really makes me like it brings me a lot of anger, which is when they're having that meeting, there's that Secretary of Defense or whoever that guy, the guy who plays essentially Dexter Morgan's father, right? And he's like, they're ticking off they're looking at locations where the atomic bomb can be put to place, and he says Kyoto, and he's like, let's not do Kyoto, it's a major city, and also I went for my honeymoon there, and I was like, how are you selecting people's lives just because like I mean, who's given you this power? Like, it's just irritating. The fact that they have this power and they're able to decide this city versus this city, we're going to destroy lives in. And we're not going to do that because I had a honeymoon and the city is quite beautiful. So that part was really irritating, but it was pretty well done. Whether it's true or not, it's anyway the subjective part of the movie. The other thing I wanted to talk about was the casting and not the major casting, but the side casting, because this is one movie where every 2 seconds or every 2 minutes or every second frame, I was going, I know this guy. Oh, this guy's there. Oh, how come he's got him here?
It's funny you mentioned side character. Imagine one of the major characters, and you only realize after a bit that that's RDJ, and that was the case with me with Lewis Strauss, and because I knew RDJ was there in the movie, uh, but until this point, which is like I think at least maybe like half an hour into the movie or something, I didn't realize that that was RDJ, and it was quite like brilliant in terms of how they kind of portrayed that character.
Hmm.
Later on, it becomes so much more obvious for me. Like I'm like, how did I not see that? Like
Yeah.
it's him kind of a thing. I think similar with I don't know which president it was, but
So it
it took
was
me a while.
Harry Truman, I think. It looked like
Harry
LBJ,
Truman,
but
yeah.
it was Harry Truman. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, Harry Truman, yeah. And I was like, oh, in my head, I was like, I know this person, I know this person, and then it's like, but that's Commissioner Gordon from Gotham. I mean,
Yeah,
from Dark Knight.
yeah,
So yeah, I mean, some really good casting and some really big names. Rami Malek.
yeah.
Um,
So I had the list here. This is why we were discussing. So we had obviously Killian Murphy, Oppenheimer, Emily Blunt, another the wife. Matt Damon was the general. Leslie Groves, Robert Downey Jr. Like you said, Straws, or however they say it. I know he corrects Oppenheimer also when he says straws, and he's like, no, it's something else.
Yeah.
So you had Florence Pugh as the mistress, Jean Tatlock. Josh Hartnett was a surprise. Haven't seen him in forever, right? So that was crazy. You had Casey Affleck, which was again a pretty very evil character, but there. Rami Malek, you mentioned. You had Gilderoy Lockhart as Niels Bohr. You had let me see who else was there. You had the polka dot guy from Suicide Squad being the Borden guy who was essentially helping in the downfall of Oppenheimer. You had Dan DeHaan who was Green Goblin in the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. He was that very impish, bratish general. You had Han Solo, who was there in the Robert Downey Jr. side, right? He was the aide, I
Yeah.
suppose, there. You had the guy from Dark Knight and Stranger Things, Matthew Modine, who was there. Um, who else? I'm pretty sure I'm missing
Alex
out
Wolf,
on
I think
Alex
that
Wolf.
guy. Yeah,
You had the guy
yeah,
from the Forbidden Kingdom, which had Jet Li and Jackie Chan. Yes, that was a really big throwback. You had Jack Quaid from The Boys, Josh Peck from Drake and Josh. I mean, the list just goes on. The fact that they were able to get all of these guys, like I said, Dexter Morgan's dad. You had Gary Oldman, who was Truman. It was just mental that they were able to, get this cast. And I think only someone like Christopher Nolan could rope in these characters. I remember I read some of the stories that I think Matt Damon and his wife were going through counseling sessions, and I think he was about to retire, but he said the only exception I'll have is if Christopher Nolan comes and asks me for a film. And funnily enough, he came asking for Oppenheimer, and now he's also in the next Christopher Nolan movie. So it's insane how the kind of power that he's able to pull. Um, yeah, I think okay. Apart from that, anything else that we really want to be discussing? We spoke about how the bomb was created. We spoke about, I think, the Trinity test. I think building that entire village, right?
Yeah.
Madness.
Los Alamos.
Yeah.
I think segments wise, if we look at this movie, it's kind of divided into segments like most Nolan movies are, like multiple
Yeah.
timelines kind of coming in together. And I think you've got the creation of the bomb, you've got the trial that's happening, two sets of trials actually. I don't know
Hmm.
if the first one is called a trial, it's more of a denial of security status, like
Yeah.
whatever that is. That seems a lot more like a trial until this one kind of turns into
Yeah.
one at a later point. Um, so yeah, it's really nicely done, and also obviously there's this certain amount of focus on his romantic side of life,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
and
What do you
and
guys
that's
make
pretty
of
good.
it? Because Nolan and the romantic side hasn't really worked out for the best in any of his movies, right?
Yeah, I
And
mean,
I think in this one also he was kind of subtle about it. I mean, you kind of see them hint Oppenheimer to be this kind of uh, this
Womanizer.
guy who, yeah, and but if you really look at it, they don't so much depict it more than rather just state that he is a womanizer. And so I think he was very subtle and he played it safe
There's
when
nothing
it comes
subtle
to that.
about seeing Florence Pugh and Killian Murphy go at it in a trial room. But yes.
Fair enough. But what I mean to say is it was just that one prolonged affair, basically, if you want to
until
say
until
something.
until you reach a point in the later in the movie where you might realize that maybe this wasn't it, right? There were perhaps more women
Yeah,
that were involved, which
when
was like very,
when they hint at that other lady, I
yeah,
forget
I
when
forget her
Josh
name as
Hartnett's
well.
character was mentioned to be coming in for that questioning for the security clearance, and they said that they had mentioned to him about
That Strauss's
him.
team, yeah. Strauss
Yeah,
had mentioned to him about that he had been cheating with
yeah,
one of
and that guy died of a broken heart and
Yeah,
something
yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
he said that. Yeah,
And
that's
then
true.
funnily enough, he responds Oppenheimer responds saying he couldn't have died because he never knew about
New.
it.
Found out.
And you're
Yeah.
like, wow, wow,
Okay,
what a
but I
film.
wonder. I mean, I say that Nolan's not had the best record when it comes to relationship because what Inception, dead wife, uh,
Batman,
Dark
dead
Knight,
girlfriend.
yeah, dead girlfriend. You had I think the following, which was his first movie, very indie one. Again, this thing that was a very heartbroken thing. Interstellar, well, not really anything there. I guess that was a little more of a happier thing.
Well,
With
no, not really, right? Like she ends up in that. I mean, he does go chasing after her, but we don't know if he ever reaches there or
yeah,
not.
exactly. Which are
That's
the
up to
other
interpretation.
movies that were? I mean, Dark Knight Rises with Talia, death.
Death again there. I mean,
Yeah,
you've got Cat Selina Kyle later on, but again, like
yeah,
he goes her own way, kind of a thing. It's not like you go and end up in a happy life. Like
true.
she's gone her way.
But I mean,
Uh,
there's
And this kind of
oh
stays
no,
true to that
actually
also, right?
no. At the end, it kind of shows them together, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And this one also kind of stays true to it with Florence Pugh's character also dying,
Yeah.
and then because of the whole questioning and stuff like that way, it kind of drives a wedge between
Okay.
Oppenheimer and the
But
wife
Question.
as well.
Question to you guys:
okay, yeah.
is his true love Gene Tatlock? Like, do you think
No,
the only reason why he kind of moves on is because he feels the need to kind of get on with his life? Which again, I mean, it's I don't know, but like
I don't think that it's his true love. I think that's I mean,
just a
she
phase.
was a bit,
It's
yeah, I think
lust.
yeah, it was just a very promiscuous phase of his, which I don't think it's, I wouldn't say, but the more pertinent question, Gene Tatlock, suicide or murder? Because there is a point where you see the gloved hand
Yeah,
push
yeah,
her down,
yeah.
Yeah,
and it's not beyond the realm of improbability, I suppose, that the government wouldn't do something like that, right? Like,
I mean, see the way the movie is done, you don't spend too much time on it, but
mm,
there are bits and pieces where it's again it's down to perception of how things might have kind of panned out for her. The real question would be like, what would taking her out of the whole thing mean? Like, what
yeah.
would it
Who
result
benefits
in?
from
Who
that?
benefits?
And
Yeah.
well, you don't
Uh,
get
yeah,
Oppenheimer like
being distracted.
distracted. Yeah, exactly, right? Being-
so maybe the
I,
Japanese government or the German government had something to do with that, you're saying?
I don't
Oh,
know.
who's
No,
the
they
There's
lead?
they
yeah,
would
Who's
want
the
her to
lead
be
scientist?
distracted, no?
Who's the lead
no,
scientist?
no. I meant that the American government thought that she was a
Yeah.
distraction, and so then
Ah, right. Okay.
yeah,
Or also,
or
if you just look at it from that time period, it could be that because of political ideas, you didn't want information about
hmm.
the whole Manhattan Project being shared with her, and they knew how close these two were and stuff like that. So, I
Yeah,
mean,
you did have the whole communist angle thing, which was what
Yeah.
he was
What if
on
he
trial
was
also
actually
for.
a spy?
yeah,
Who? She.
Yeah.
I don't know.
sorry.
Now she's not there anymore. So that's, if she was, then it didn't really matter, right?
Yeah.
No, but the
Yeah,
other thing, I think one thing that, okay, we have to talk about those scenes because for us, it was a completely different experience, right? To what I'm guessing the Americans and the Western side of the world
Yeah,
watch
I got to
because
experience both experiences. The second one in the most weirdest of ways. Like the first time we
yeah,
went to the
yeah.
cinemas.
Let's hear yours. Let's hear yours. Yeah.
Yeah, first time was in the cinemas, and she sat there on the couch, and she's got this weirdly black shaped dress, which you think, okay, she's wearing this very short dress and like interesting, until something starts feeling weird, like in the way it is, and
Hmm.
it takes a while, but then it hits you that she's not wearing anything, and this is just the way it's been kind of
Censored.
yeah, censored for your viewing, in the country
Pleasure.
you reside in.
Displeasure.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. Now, the funny thing, I'm doing a rewatch, and uh, this is on OSN, which has tie-up with HBO.
So we watched it very legally, guys.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. The only way you should watch or consume media. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, coming back to it. So, unfortunately for me, while watching this, my dad just happened to be sitting right next to me for some reason. He was busy in his phone, but nonetheless, he was right there. And out of nowhere, the scene comes in, and um, I'm conflicted because there is story happening in there. She's
Yeah.
talking to him some things, like, and he's talking about Sanskrit, and she's asking him to read it out and things like
Oh,
that.
you're
And
talking about the Bhagavad Gita thing. Okay. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And you're like, okay, wait, what do we do?
Hmm.
Yeah, but nonetheless,
Yeah.
like it was a very weird skip, trying to skip, but it just kept going 10 seconds, and it just kept moving from one weird position to another. Um, so
Yeah.
yeah, like very weird experience for me, not the way I would have wanted to kind of take that scene in, not
Yeah.
least with my dad for sure.
I'm surprised they had the scene here, especially, reading the Bhagavad Gita while in that position. Like, I know there were obviously a lot of issues after the movie was released, but I'm very surprised the censor board allowed that scene to be played in India. Um, I really didn't think it was necessary for her to be on top of him while he was reading out the Bhagavad Gita or saying that thing, but I'll leave it to Nolan's judgment for that. He does have, I know one criticism that I had of the movie, or he generally has, is the women characters are not the most well written. I think Interstellar, it was very well written. I think Inception, Elliot Page's was very well written. Batman's was, I think Dark Knight and Anne Hathaway and
I
Rises
think
was
Dark Knight
fine.
Rises was more well written for the women in general, like both Talia and
You think Dan Dark Knight? I mean, I don't want to get into too much detail on this,
I
but
mean, yeah, like I mean, if you think about it, Rachel, right? Her name is.
yeah, 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 yeah.
There's not much she does than kind of
Hmm.
just be this person who kind of puts Batman or the other person in a very weird spot. If you think about it, like
But in
Harvey doesn't know if he's got the girl or not got the girl. She seems elsewhere. Batman
yeah.
is like, she was mine, but now she says she's not mine. But
But
it's like
but here,
mind games on a whole other
but here,
level.
I thought like
That's
Kitty
Inception,
was,
bro.
yeah. But here, I thought Kitty was quite very one-dimensional until the end, which really hit home.
Yeah, yeah. But I think that's done intentionally. I think they
Yeah,
want you to kind of think that she does not have anything more to her until that moment arrives, and you're like, okay. Now, I think that's when you kind of see, that's why I asked if Gene Tatlock was his true love, and why he actually marries this one is because he loves the woman she is in terms of the person she is. Like the intellectual side of her and
but,
all of that.
but
Perhaps.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, gone. I don't think Gene Tatlock was, but I don't know. I didn't like. So, I mean, for me, Kitty felt like almost a drunken mess for quite a big part of it. And then the last one. So, what do you make of it? Did you find anything glaringly problematic with the women being written in the movie?
Mm, the only thing I would think which was like slightly conflicting is if you see most of the relationships that he showed. I mean, I think they showed him with kind of three women or tried to hint at the three women that he kind of was romantically linked with. They kind of showed that he had intellectual connections with them through conversation, whether it be their political interests or like the Sanskrit thing that Naeem was talking about and stuff like that way. So it in terms of Kitty, they kind of tried to show that she was intellectual and smart and stuff like that way. And uh, I get that they tried to also show that there was hardship along the way for her, and which is why she became the mess that she was when the first child was kind of she wasn't able to kind of deal with it. But I
Mate, they
think that
were
was
ready
like,
to just give the child
yeah,
away. I was like,
yeah.
what the hell?
I think that was like that cliff jump was very abrupt, where she was like this well put together woman, and then suddenly she just goes,
Yeah.
keep the kid, kind of thing. So that was kind of a little bit uh, abrupt, the immediate kind of disintegration of hers. But I think the when it came to the whole questioning sequence where they were kind of poking and prodding at Oppenheimer and his life and stuff like that, the way she kind of tried to stand up and tried to kind of hold Oppenheimer up and get him to fight and kind of show integrity and that kind of stuff. I think that part was more relatable to the character that I thought Kitty was, rather than the drunk and kind of
Hmm.
depressed and mopey kind of character that they had in the middle of the movie. But I
I
think
think
Right.
it's
overall, I think
difficult.
they did a decent job.
Yeah, I think like I said, right? Sorry, like Aaron mentioned, the drop is kind of jarring from where she is to who she becomes
Hmm.
midway through the movie. I think, but also like considering the runtime already, this is not enough time to focus on his romantic life.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah,
Maybe there will be another one where it's like
Was
focus
there a
on.
was there a need to showcase his romantic life in the
I
movie?
think yeah, in a certain way that
Yeah.
does it does impact like who he is as a person
Hmm.
and the work he's doing in certain way perhaps and prob maybe it's not as obvious to us and maybe but it did kind of distract him like having Jean
I
there and perhaps like you guys
yeah,
mentioned that's where
I think also it kind of the it was important because during the whole sequence where they were denying him his access, they wanted to kind of allude to his promiscuity and his ties with uh, the communist kind of
communist group,
party
yeah.
and that kind of stuff. So I think they wanted to show that kind of part of it, so that when they questioned him about it and kind of tried to shame him in some sort of way, we could relate to what they were kind of pointing and alluding to. So maybe not so much was required, but I think some portion of it had to be there just so that those who really didn't know about his life kind of knew what the movie was getting at.
Oh, Naeem, by the way, Oppenheimer's brother, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he's from You, Theo, the one that,
Ah, the third season, right, the one
yeah,
who has an affair with love.
yes, with
That's
love.
where I know him from. I kept thinking I know this person from like some other movie or some other show. Yeah, cool. Nice.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Oh, also one more character. I mean, Albert Einstein, right? Is the guy from Dark Knight Rises, the one who's with Christian Bale and Batman at in the Lazarus Pit, the one who's
Helping
kind
him
of
with the
helping
recovery
him. Yeah.
process. Yeah,
There's
I
there's
got it.
one guy who's blind, not the blind guy, but the other guy who's
Right.
almost
Yeah.
like a yeah. So that's the guy. That's another one. Okay. Though the other thing I wanted to ask, and this is one thing that threw me off, was Robert Downey Jr.'s face turned to heel, right? If you want to use wrestling terms. So him being the bad guy and him actually being against Oppenheimer. I know there were hints about it when Oppenheimer made fun of his work or something earlier on and all of that, but I didn't expect him to be the one who's helping Borden and who's helping Green Goblin and all those guys frame or defame Oppenheimer, who also got the trial that in that small little room for Oppenheimer and you know wanted to deny him the access. So did you guys know already from the start that this was going to happen, or did you also get thrown off that because that's the point where uh Aldrin's character, the aide, he's the one who figures it out, right? He's like he talks about the Time magazine or something, and then he's like, "Oh, you said this before," and then he talks about how power and all of that works. So
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
think for me that scene where he insults him kind of like stuck, and I think from that moment on I kept thinking he's got some hand in this. I didn't know he would be
yeah,
the front runner in like getting
yeah,
on this thing, but I thought he was involved in like sort of throwing shit Oppenheimer's way kind of a thing.
okay,
Uh, so not as much as a surprise for me. Like it's not like I didn't see that coming kind of a thing. So, uh, but him getting caught in the trial,
yeah,
that I didn't see. I thought he was gonna get away with it kind of a thing.
yeah.
Because obviously I've not read enough of history to kind of know how it turned out. And
How it turned out. But yeah, the
yeah,
Rami Malek one was probably more surprising.
yeah,
Like,
that was really good. The way they kind of, and the funny thing is, like they kept saying Hill, and I'm like, who is Hill? I'm trying to recall who is during the movie. I'm trying to recall who is this Hill character,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like which
yeah.
one of those scientists is this
Correct.
person? And then
Yeah.
it turns out to be Rami Malek, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Maybe there's still hope for Oppenheimer. Who knows? Uh,
The other fun part is there's that guy in the Oppenheimer team who talks about the hydrogen bomb, the
oh
Hungarian
yeah,
Benny Savage. He's actually the
yeah,
father of the Hungarian of the not the Hungarian bomb, but he's the father of the hydrogen
hydrogen.
bomb. Yeah. So he eventually goes and does that. Yes. So he's an Hungarian scientist, but
So
that was a
explain to
neat
me
thing.
this. The hydrogen bomb is a lot more stronger than the original.
Yeah, because I think that he says, right, doesn't use kilotons, it uses megatons or something. So it's like
Right, he
you
mentions that,
build
yeah.
build smaller bombs into this and use water as something. I
And
didn't take science in school after 10th. I have zero knowledge about how it works, but it is meant to be a lot more powerful.
so when people talk about nuclear weapons,
Yeah,
these are also
part of
considered to
it,
be part of
right?
that arsenal, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
would be.
It's not just atomic bombs anymore. Like,
No.
okay.
Nuclear reactor, nuclear hydrogen, all of that stuff. Yeah.
Wow. And damn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really.
Exactly.
Like if that was so bad, like you just imagine how bad this could turn out to be. Uh,
Yeah. Exactly. Okay.
so-
I just wanted to ask your favorite sort of scenes from the movie, anything that stuck out in particular, and
but
also for
okay,
the wrong reasons. Okay, fine.
which part of the movie is like more like I wouldn't say like scenes. I'm not talking about scenes. I'm talking
Hmm.
about the segments in itself because, like we
Yeah.
mentioned, there are different segments. I think there is obvious bias towards uh the creation of the bomb itself,
Hmm. Yeah.
but I was pleasantly so when the creation ends, right?
Yeah.
And you know it's a 3 hour movie,
Yeah.
and there's still a long way to go. And I'm
Yeah.
like in my head, I'm like wow, like the movie should have ended here, but
Yeah.
there's still some runway to go. And that's where like it was interesting enough. Like I mean, yes, the creation of the bomb is still the the
Crux
the
of it, the
part where
main.
it's yeah the main one, and you kind of want to see that kind of a thing. But it was very interesting that I actually found the trial bit as well very entertaining,
Hmm.
especially the way it's kind of done, and you kind of see it unraveling. And as the aid, like I think that's the perspective you're getting as being that aid, and that's how you see things unraveling in front of you. and I found it to be a very strong part of the movie in terms of the way it was done, kind of a thing. Like in the sense that it could have easily felt like the movie had dragged on far too much than it
Yeah,
should have, but
yeah.
it didn't. Like
Uh,
at a certain point, perhaps the pacing kind of drops a little bit.
yes.
And you feel that, but like the pacing then immediately kind of picks up, and then it all
Hmm.
comes kind of just like the way especially the music, it adds so much
Yeah.
value to the tension and all of that stuff that it just, I don't know, it's a very good
Oh
segment
yeah,
of.
I think what is it? Like it's after the you remember he gives that speech where everyone's stomping on
Yeah,
the floor and
yeah,
making that really loud noise. That was insane. And then it drops off and picks up only after I think Rami Malek comes in and the Kitty trial both happen simultaneously because that's when it
simultaneous.
like
Yeah,
all kind of culminates into this grand finale. But in between, yeah, you're right. Like the meeting with Truman and all is like, okay, it's a lull period right now, and he's
yeah.
But
But
not
even
much.
then,
I think
even
that's like intentionally done, where it
yeah.
kind of those lull moments, and then the impact when it picks up again is so much more, because it kind of
Hmm.
gets you to almost sort of like jump out of your seat and like, okay, here we go again, kind of
Yeah.
thing. I think so. I think those were very intentionally done, and if you look at it, like they do it in such a way where it's immediately after a very heart-throbbing kind of uh, music that's going on, that immediately it drops into a lull where you're like, oh, that's what's happened here. Like, oh, it's like silence without really being silent, kind of thing. And so I think that kind of adds to then when the more impactful scenes come.
Yeah. Yeah.
what did you guys think about the reveal at the end? Like where this whole thing happens with Oppenheimer
Yeah.
because of what Strauss thinks. I mean, one part is that he insults Strauss, but
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
a major influence is what he thinks he might have said to Albert
Albert
Einstein.
Einstein. Yeah.
and
Yeah. That
and that
was.
whole reveal at the end, and the way kind of how it sticks to Albert, and how he kind of just feels lost in his own world,
I mean, it's
trying
true,
to
right?
envision.
But it's true, right? Like while they didn't literally ignite the atmosphere,
Absolutely.
it is a chain reaction where you build something and then the others will see that you have something powerful. They'll build the next powerful thing and then so on and so forth. Or you build the same powerful thing so that you are not like everyone thinks, right? You look at countries and you're like, why can't we have peace? Like just get rid of all of the armies and this. But if somebody has one soldier or something, they just then tends to be a lot more powerful, right? So you can't let someone be a step
Yeah.
above you, I guess.
Yeah, I suppose not. But yeah,
It it's weird, yeah. But yeah, your favorite sort of moment or scene or your least favorite moment and scene, either of which or both, whichever you want to go with.
Favorite is, I mean, it's kind of left field, but I mean, there was a lot to like about the movie. But what I found kind of humorous in the end was just how the end, uh, how when Strauss is in front of all those people, and it's almost like a foregone conclusion that he was going to get that role, and then it completely unravels, and then again, I forget the character's name, but he uses Strauss's line against him, and he just says, "It's not a trial,"
Oh yeah,
and that
yeah,
kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
thing. I found that quite humorous, because essentially Strauss was kind of using all those lines to kind of justify the and kind of validate himself and say, okay, this is why I did what I did, and then to have that kind of thrown in his face, and then to see his kind of reaction to it, I found
Uh,
that
I
quite
love the
humorous.
reaction where he's like he's pissed off, but then the doors
Yeah,
open and there are cameras, so he has to smile when he's
yeah,
freaking out. Right? I was
and
like,
And that was so cool because it was that guy only who opened the door just so that he could not get a comeback or a final word. He just kind of threw him to the dogs. And I think that was, again,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty sure there is a lot of other things that could have been like the best scene and stuff like that way, but I just found this to be quite humorous and I probably enjoyed it a little too much. Maybe
On
the
the on the flip side, I the one scene which I thought was unnecessary and I don't think added much was the poisoned apple.
yeah.
I mean, was he really trying to poison his teacher for being a dick? I don't think so. But at the same time, what did it actually add? Because he runs back and that's when he meets Kenneth Branagh's Niels Bohr, right? And then he says, "Can you hear the music?" But um, I
I
think,
think I think I think that specific uh the scene is probably to kind of show that he's sort of impulsive in nature, and kind of does things at times without thinking about it. And
yeah,
then, like, when he's had time to kind of settle down and think about it, then he thinks of the repercussions and things like that, and wants to kind of that's
yeah.
how I view that this thing. Perhaps
Actually, while I was saying it, I was like, yeah, that probably is what it is. That it's a metaphor for what actually he is, which is he does something and then he instantly sort of regrets it once
regrets
things
it,
have gone.
and that
Yeah.
kind of echoes with like
I
the
think it was
creation of
just
the
like
bomb
a
itself.
more, it was probably like a small scale version of then what happened with the atom bomb, where he kind
Yeah,
of does it and then he's like, what have I done, sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. Mine is more straightforward. I think the Trinity test and the creation of the bomb itself, like
Oh yeah.
some of the most intense scenes and the way they kind of hook you in, the music, the picturization,
The
the
bet that it
dialogues,
wouldn't, the fact that it wouldn't, that it has a near almost 0% chance of not.
almost. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And like, especially the part where they kind of realize, or they have this uh, hint of a they realize there's a hint of a chance they might set the atmosphere on fire, and they kind of depict how that might actually translate and all of that stuff.
Hmm.
It's really like one of my favorite parts of the movie itself. So like, I think also the pacing is so much better, and there's this, it's funny, right? Like, I don't know how you do it, because we know, we've read history and we know it happened. But to be watching that movie, it's just I can't describe it, but it's like you're still feeling you don't know what's gonna happen next,
Yeah.
which is weird. And I think that that does like really kind of speak volumes about how well it is done, to kind of take you all out of the reality that's actually happened, and kind of put you into this, and take it as it's coming in, kind of a thing, sort of a thing.
Okay, let's end this discussion with going back all the way to the start where I asked you the question as to whether you would be would you be hired or would you accept being hired into the Manhattan Project? Now let me go back to it and
Would
change
I
it
be
a bit.
hired? No, I don't think I
Yeah,
qualify
yeah.
for it.
Yeah. Would
Uh,
you accept to be hired if you were at that position? Now, going back to it is Oppenheimer, hero or villain? Because that's what I guess is what everyone's probably going to be talking. Whether, I mean, was he father of the atomic bomb? I suppose the ender of, I wouldn't say the ender of World War II because I think whatever Nazi Germany had fallen after Hitler shot himself and all of that. But whatever, big part in the World War II
I don't know. So
ending.
history has always been about perception for me. There's always multiple ways to look at it, and
Yeah.
it's hard to say whether the person is right or wrong, because everyone has different perspectives, and everyone views that story in a certain way. Um, Purely speaking, from the portrayal of this specific
Hmm.
movie, I think there's not much he can do. He's thinking
Well,
of
he
it from
could
a
just say
perspective.
no, but yeah.
Well, he could just say no according to this movie, and it just turns out that Germany has the bomb, and
Yeah,
boom, everything again. Like we're we're thinking at this point, we're not thinking that Hitler's gonna die and
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it all comes to a standstill and stuff. We're still thinking they're
No,
gonna
but I
go.
think I think he did, right? He does. I don't know if there is a scene where they do say
No,
that that bit is done, and because Japanese
Yeah,
is
they
who
did say Germany has fallen, but I
fallen.
think
Yeah.
no.
it
They
was
they say
Russia that
Germany
was
has
the threat.
fallen.
Huh. Yeah.
No. That's later. They say
What?
Japan is the threat. That's why they want to kind of.
Yeah. They
Japan
want to.
was
Yeah.
not a threat
Yeah.
for creating
The,
the bomb, though. The
No,
bomb
not
was
a.
the
no,
reason.
not creating the bomb. The in the sense that they want to put an end to that war altogether.
Yeah,
Um, I think the bomb thing, Russia becomes for later. Germany is always the one in the
Germany and
race, right?
so the race is Germany and US. Then Germany
US.
falls, and then Soviet Union is the other person who's got the sort of facilities and everything.
But
But
that's
yeah.
not
that's
for
not the point.
the
I mean,
atomic bomb. That's for the
yeah,
H bomb, right?
I think so. Yeah,
Is it? Is it not?
I
No,
not
I don't think
entirely
so.
sure on this, but yes, it must be we're really bad people if you're discussing it after watching it recently. But still,
Wow.
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No, but that being said, for you, hero or villain?
I think for me, he's still a villain. Uh,
Okay.
like as good a job as they do of picturizing him as this
Yes,
person who kind
savior
of
and
savior and all of that stuff. I think I still view this as a major detriment to kind of humans in general, and what we did against our own kind of like our own kind was is not justified enough. Like maybe the creation of the bomb in itself leads to kind of, see, the thing is, you're the mind behind it, okay, but
yeah.
you need to also realize that once you've gone down that pathway, you don't hold the power to say what happens with it. That's so clear right from the
But
start.
that's what someone says, right? I don't know if it's David Crumhol's character who's his friend or someone else who says that after you create the bomb, they will just throw you out, like they'll just ignore you or
I think
keep
at that
push you
point,
aside.
yeah,
Yeah, because that's what he
maybe,
feels like after the
yeah,
bomb, after the Trinity test is when they're shipping it off, and then they're like, he's like, you have to drop it at this side. And they're like, we know what to do, so
yeah,
they didn't need him anymore. So
yeah.
you're right. I think yeah, fair.
Again, so
Aaron,
so this movie is purely in a lot of ways speaking from his psyche and
hmm,
him justifying why he, like, for from the way I'm seeing it, he's justifying to us why it seemed like the right move to kind of create the bomb. That's why he's got these arguments about if we don't do it, then, like, Germany will still do it, and we'll probably be in the receiving end and all of that. These are just all arguments. Even at the end, right? Like when they have the bomb ready and Germany's fallen, um, the mere fact that they feel the need to kind of use that weapon,
hmm,
now that they have their weapon, because they feel that will help negate all wars to come, kind of a thing, is a little too, I don't know the right word to use for it, but like it just feels like, which high horse are you coming from, like,
hmm,
kind of thing, right? Yeah.
yeah,
So I mean, for me, uh, villain is too strong a word, but I don't think he's like this
hero,
savior of
savior,
the
yeah,
world, or like he should be kind of portrayed to be, like the person to look up to. In, like, yes, in terms of scientific research, absolutely, but
yeah.
in terms of what that kind of led to, I don't think so. Like my
Okay.
perception of
Yeah, yeah, of
it.
course. Yeah, yeah. We're here to give our views, not we're not in black and white here. Yeah. Aaron?
I definitely don't see him as a villain for sure. Uh,
Okay.
maybe I don't think you can call him a hero. I mean, maybe a hero in terms of science, yes. I mean,
Hmm.
the discovery and that kind of stuff was, I mean, I think that was ahead of its time back then. But again, I wouldn't. I mean, I think if you look at just purely from the movie's point of view, I think if it was not for Oppenheimer, I'm sure they would have found another physicist in America who would have been willing to do what he did.
Or
Probably that,
they could have gone the
yeah,
Hungarian one who did the hydrogen bomb. That
yeah.
would be
So
possible.
it might have been, it would have maybe been
But
uh,
sorry
a
to cut
slower
you off. I
progress
think
or whatever like that way. But I think at least from the standpoint where he kind of pushed to kind of deter them from actually using it,
Hmm.
I think he did his part. Whereas you never know with the next person that was in the waiting to kind of take up that project. He probably would have said, "I've made it. Let's see what it does." And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I mean, I don't say he's a villain or a hero in terms of society, but definitely for his research and the stuff that he did for science, I don't think you can discredit anything from that standpoint.
Okay.
um yeah, I mean that makes complete sense. I think just two things. I think it's also realizing how important he was for the creation of the bomb at that point.
Yeah.
Because I think he's the only physicist, right, who's kind of uh into the study of that in US. Because
Oh, correct.
at
When
the
he goes
time
to
he
Heisenberg and then
exactly no
uh,
one is interested, and he comes back and kind of has people kind of go through that. Also very critical in terms of the other bomb that gets created. I think he's got a major part to play in that as
hmm.
well, because he does, I think, have weekly sessions with that person, whatever
Yeah.
his name is, Tully,
Yeah.
or I don't remember what
Yeah,
his
yeah,
name is.
yeah. Edward Tully or Edward something, I think is what
Something like that. I don't
I
know.
could be completely Teller, Edward Teller.
Teller,
Yeah,
yeah,
Teller,
yeah,
not
hello.
Teller.
Teller.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, I mean, yeah, like I said, villain is too strong a word to use,
Yeah.
but definitely not a hero whatsoever. Not in terms of
In
science, yes,
your,
in
yeah,
terms of
yeah.
science, for sure.
Okay. All right. And on that very heavy note, I suppose, we conclude our
You didn't
discussion
give your
on.
opinion.
Yeah, yeah, that's funny. Like, very
Okay.
nicely done. Like,
Yeah. All right. So I think I would tilt more to a villain than a hero in terms of this. I think he did have as much as I guess you could say that somebody else would have built the bomb and all of that. For him and personally, I think he could have just said no, or he could have put his foot down, uh, or just not taken it up. But then again, with his research and his that's his field. So you kind of, if someone was to tell me or give me an offer in the field that I am working in, yeah, it's my interest, it's my passion, so I would want to do that. But I think he could have probably, maybe he had enough time to think about what the repercussions would be, or whether he thought that he could in fact influence the government to not do it. Maybe I felt that was a bit too much. I probably think he overestimated
Yeah,
uh his ability or his impact in the political side. But I think, yeah, just the fact that, just personally, I don't think in the whole scheme of things you could call him either. But personally, I would say I would call myself, or he lived long enough to be a villain, right, than die a hero. So
mhm. Nice. Wow, what a
yes.
way to end that.
What
Brilliant.
a way to end the podcast. Thank you guys for discussing it. And thank you everyone who are either listening to our podcast on the audio version, whether it be Spotify or wherever you're listening to this on. And also if you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, share with friends and family, click that notification button, and we'll catch you all next time on the next episode. Yeah, point everywhere. All right, that's it from the Three Body Narrative, and we'll catch you all soon. See you.